Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, you guys.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Real Talk with SLR.
How are you guys doing today?
Well, you guys, it's the start of a whole new week.
Yes, it is.
Happy Monday, friends.
How are you guys doing on this fine Monday?
Hopefully, nobody has a case of the Mondays.
Right.
We're going to try to liven up your week and deep dive into another conversation that Gary and I, have been thinking about and people have been asking us about. And why not talk about it? This is Real Talk, right?
Right.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about raising kids on a homestead, and not just raising kids on a homestead because it's not like Gary and I have a whole lot of experience in that area. We're going to talk about like our experience of raising kids on a homestead that is currently being built up.
Correct.
Moving them out to scratch to the middle of nowhere, raw acreage, living in a 24-foot little camper with no pop outs,
Yeah.
no running water, no electricity, none of that. And basically, talk to you guys about what it's been like to raise kids in this very different environment than what is, I guess, the social norm.
Yeah.
So I guess we can start off by, I guess I'm going to ask you, what do you think our kids are learning from this life?
I think the big takeaway about this lifestyle itself is not being afraid to try. That is, I feel like the biggest thing on the homestead
Yep.
is you're constantly trying to adapt and you're constantly trying to learn new things, or you're constantly trying to overcome certain circumstances,
Right.
and the kids are constantly seeing us going through the motions of everything
Yeah.
and seeing that, if you do want something, you just have to go for it, and it's not always going to be the easiest thing to do, but if you're persistent, you can achieve what you need to be doing.
I
you
would
know
totally agree with that sentiment. I would also like to throw in there too that they're learning that good things come to those who wait and who
yes.
have not only the patience to wait for the end result, but the go get it and the endurance to see it, I guess, to the end.
Yeah.
Like when you first, let's take like gardening, for example. When you first plant a seed, you don't get to harvest the fruit right away.
No.
It takes lots of tending to and pulling to the weeds and making sure that it gets watered and picking all the bugs off. And,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of effort in order to get the result of the beautiful tomato that you can make some BLTs with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's very worth it and it's very rewarding. And I think that what this whole like homesteading, moving out to the woods across the country and, building a brand new life from scratch is teaching them is that if they really want something, that they can have it. It might not be instantaneous and it might not be as easy as they thought it would, but if they're willing to put in the work and have a bit of patience with it, then they're going to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
That's what I believe, at least, that we're teaching them by living this whole homestead life, or this whole journey that we're on. That's our intentions of what we're trying to teach them anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to like our last episode, how we talked about living like a slower paced life. This homesteading journey, and anybody that lives out in the country, they'll tell you, there's setbacks and then there's really quick push forwards in things, and sometimes that's how our life will be. But I feel like by enduring all of this together and having the kids witness you and I go through the struggles that we've gone through, sometimes
Yeah.
it's struggle life reclaimed, let me tell you what. But having them be witness to us going through that and seeing us not only accomplish it together, but to be able to endure, I'm hoping that that's going to give our kids the encouragement and the, what's it called? I'm looking for the right word and I just squirreled off on it. The example, that's the word I'm looking for. The example. I'm hoping that it gives the kids the example to look to so they can apply those things in their own life as they grow up.
Yeah.
Sorry about my squirrel brain, friends.
It's all
Sometimes
good.
my feelings register, but my brain doesn't make the words come. That's why I like to write things down, and we're just spitballing here, friends.
Yep.
So, um, another question or something that gets brought up to us oftentimes when we're making our videos and stuff. Sometimes people will be like, "Oh, you guys should have your kids out there helping you. It'd sure go a lot faster." Or, just different things along that nature. They'll ask why our kids are not helping us with certain things. They will also, on the flip side, be very encouraging when they do see our kids helping out with certain things. And maybe they'll
Yep.
reminisce on like their childhood or how they raised their children or whatever. And so it's a very fine balance that we have worked out amongst our family, what works for us, on how we keep them involved without overloading them. So you want
Yep.
to share a little bit about how we keep them involved without overloading them?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is we'll have them do stuff inside. We'll have them, you know, clean up around the house a little bit, doing like their chores, doing the animal chores, or picking up around the outside, or they're a part of the family unit. They're our kids. So they're doing everything that kids are doing. And sometimes we do bring them out.
Yeah.
And it's mainly because we ask them if they want to. Hey, it would be really nice if you guys could give us a hand. And they'll come out. If they don't want to come out and help us out, then it is what it is. I'm not gonna force my girls to come out and swing a hammer.
Right. Well,
Abe, he's a boy, and he's got
he's eager though.
he
He's
you
eager.
give him the option to go swing a hammer, he's gonna be all over it, all
Yeah.
right, or anything like that. And it's been awesome having my little dude, because he's like, oh yeah,
He's
I'll definitely jump in there. He knows how to make some concrete, I'll tell you that.
Abraham knows how to do concrete, how to do some blockwood. Abraham, I mean, and the girls do too.
They
Girls are
do,
very well
but
capable. The thing is that we try to water their interests.
correct.
So, I mean, at least me personally, if I am interested in something and I find something enjoyable to do, then I want to learn all about it and I want to do it in all the different ways that I possibly can do it.
Yeah.
If it's something that I absolutely hate, then I don't want to do it. I'm probably not going to do the best. I mean, I'm going to do my best just because that's how I am. And we try to teach that to our kids too. Like, even if you don't like the job, do the best that you can possibly do on each and everything that you do. However, they're kids. And
Yeah.
sometimes if they don't like something, they're not going to do their best because they don't like it. They're not into it. They're not pouring their heart and soul into it. So we try to look for things that they're interested in doing and try to encourage them in those directions. Now, here's the thing with doing YouTube, right? And a lot of our life is filmed and put on a public platform. I can't talk today. Our life is put on a public platform. There we go. I think I said it right this time. And them being minors, like, we do not overexpose our children.
Yes.
So if they are not in the mood to come out and do whatever we're doing, then we're not going to force them to. However, they are forced to do certain chores. Like, Julia has to do cleaning out the chicken coop.
Yeah.
Scarlett has to go out there and take care of the goats, and Abraham has to do like the cats and the dogs. I'm using those things as an example. They
Yes.
have quite a bit more that they do than that. But when it comes to the construction and the building of the house, there have been several times where the kids have been so excited and really wanted to help us out, and they do. And when they want to, we encourage that. However, so they don't feel like they're getting overloaded, and that way there's no future resentment from them towards us or towards the home or towards anything that we're trying to do here. We don't force that stuff upon them. But Abraham absolutely loves it. Abraham loves it, loves it, loves it. The girls, they get in their moods where they love it, and then they also get in the moods where it's like, no.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we try to involve them without overloading them, because it's not just the physical demands of doing the job, but it's also, it can be sometimes a struggle for me personally, right? Knowing that what we're putting out is being seen by who knows who and who knows how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, who knows who's going to see it, right? And the kids are now aware of that fact. Like they are not really little.
No.
So they are completely aware of the fact of that. And sometimes they're in the mood, sometimes they're not. And if they're not, we're never going to pressure them. It
No.
has to 100% be their idea for them to be like on our channel and stuff. So I guess that's kind of like it goes hand in hand. Like we can only speak on our experiences. That goes for like the homesteading part of it, but it also goes to the whole social media sharing part of it. We try to, because it's all kind of for us and our lived experiences, it's kind of hand in hand with each other. Where somebody that just decides they want to go live a life out in the country, but maybe not share all of their experiences with the world, they might have a little bit of a different outlook on it.
Especially since, you know, a lot of people that live out in the sticks or out in the cut, they're pretty private and they don't want it out for the
Exactly.
public.
Exactly. That's part of the
So
allure
that
of
is
moving
the
out
whole.
into the middle of nowhere, right? Is so
Yes.
that way you can, you know,
Yes.
yeah.
You know, and it is pretty funny. I know it's off subject and whatnot like that, but it's, you know, we're very cautious in that aspect, and we are people, but we're not people. You
Yeah.
know, we lived in the city. We lived in the big city like that, and there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that. So, which is why we like living out in the middle of nowhere, and it
Yeah.
definitely has a huge appeal with all of that. So
Yeah.
very cozy.
We don't want to shelter our kids so much to where they will be shocked at what the world is like when
Correct.
they are adults and they have to jump into the big world by themselves. However,
We are very
we
honest with our kids.
yeah, we're very honest with our kids. I don't really sugarcoat much when it comes to
The
world and how things are. And sometimes I have to have like those sit downs with the kids, like, hey, look, this is this, this is
Mm-hmm.
that, and you know,
It is what it is. I
yeah,
mean, that's parenting.
and then we have them ask us questions, and then we answer those things. That is parenting. That is
No.
being a parent, and that's being, you know, there for them. But we try not to overload them with so much like physical labor work. Now they do have chores and they do have things that are expected of them, because when they grow up and they're out into the big wild world, there's going to be things that are expected of them. And in order for them to be capable to take care of themselves when they reach a certain age, they're going to need experience in doing said things. So we try to give it to them at age appropriate times. Although some of the things that we give Abraham to do are way beyond his age, but that's because of his capabilities and also
I
because
wouldn't
of the way
even.
that we've raised him. Like most children his age cannot read a tape measure the way that our son can, for example, right? And that's based off of the lived experiences that we've
No.
allowed him to have.
At his age, though, like
No, they
there's
should be able
nothing.
to.
No, I
But
know, but there's nothing that I can think of. You know, like I mean, taking out the trash. At his age, he should be taking out the trash. I remember taking out the trash at 8.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
no.
and so I mean, like,
Those are
there's
just
nothing.
chores.
No, I know there's nothing. I remember, honestly, like when I was 8, I probably had all 3 of the kids' chores, like the amount
Yeah.
and everything. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, they got it. I mean, there's not a whole lot, you know. So
Yeah.
and
So we do things with them that like pique their interest. That's how we keep them involved in what we're doing. So that way they could feel like they have ownership
yeah,
in this and not like, oh, just mom and dad built this house. That way they could feel like they were a part of it and they did it too.
it's coming to the point where they're going to be putting a lot of more hands on.
Yeah.
And
They're
it's
so excited to do their bedrooms,
mainly
guys. They're so excited to get upstairs.
mainly because, you know,
And we're trying.
we're not on the roof.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to work off of the floor level.
Yeah.
And that's, as you guys seen in the videos, most likely, when did Abe help us?
Yeah.
The foundation levels,
He
where
did.
it's the floor level. So I'm just saying, like, and I didn't really want the kids or anybody around when we're shooting nail guns around. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard enough when I'm on the other side of you or you're on the other side of me and we're shooting the nail guns opposite, you know, and like I try to offset to where we go in like this, to where it's only that one time, you know,
Yeah, when we're
in
actually like
between, but
together.
because accidents happen,
Accidents
you
do
know,
happen.
and I've seen some crazy things happen. So that's where it's like, you know, and I try to limit as much as possible. And that's where it also comes down to going slow with what it is, as well as like certain things. It's just like, I'm not going to put my kids through that,
I find that
you
when
know.
the kids express something that they're interested in, though, for example, Scarlett does like to do some staining, and Scarlett likes to paint and stuff, right? Um, Julia, for the most part, likes to deal with the animals and stuff. She likes going out and doing like some of the nature stuff, right? Abe likes all things construction. The kid doesn't even mind digging holes. I'm just saying,
No,
like he's just like all about it. Now that might be a difference in the sexes, but it also just might be just major differences in their personalities. But I find that when they express something to me that they really have an interest in, I try to like, all right, let's go, you know, and I try to like indulge them on the things that they're interested in, because either A, they're going to fully develop in that and then move on to another interest, or B, I'll get them going on that and they'll quickly find, yeah, I thought I liked that, but I actually don't,
no,
you know, and then it helps to continue to get them to be well-rounded and stuff. But there are so many different things that's a part of the homestead that maybe they don't necessarily like, but they understand that it needs to be done. For
it's a
instance,
lot of life
culling the
lessons.
chickens.
No,
When we got all of those Cornish hens, right? Nobody likes the cull day. Let me just say, I'm not like a
nobody.
huge fan of it. I do feel rewarded by it because it's a
Yes,
very rewarding
but it's one of
experience.
those that it's like, man,
But
all right.
nobody like enjoys it, right? But it's a very rewarding
That's one of those.
experience.
That's one of those times where I try to go about it pretty fast, in a sense, as quick as
Yeah,
possible.
just get it done.
Just get it done. I don't want to think about it. I don't want nothing. Let's just get it done
That's
and
one
go
of
it
the
over it.
times where like we're
You know?
not trying to reclaim the simple
No.
thing in life there. We're trying to just
Well,
get
I
the
mean, it
deed
is
done.
reclaiming the simple thing in
You know,
life, you
I'm not
know,
trying to
but I'm
cherish
not.
the moment of it though.
No, exactly. That's what I'm
You
saying.
know?
I'm like, no, I want to. I'll
It's
cherish the moment.
stinky.
I'll cherish the moment when I barbecue it, you
Yeah,
know, and then
when
I'll
we're
be like,
eating
all
it, and then we'll be
right.
like, "Oh wow, it was so worth it."
I'll cherish
But
the barbecue moment.
actually,
But after doing that, all of that,
and you know, that's one of the things that like some people actually very strongly disagree with our choice in how we parent our children and how we're
no,
raising them with that particular thing. Some people very, very strongly disagree with the fact that we have our children so hands on throughout that entire process. But from this side of it, and being their mother and whatnot, I couldn't be prouder. I am so thankful and proud to know that, like, man, with who knows, let's knock on some wood, but let's just say some crazy stuff happened. We're talking Walking Dead, zombie apocalypse, you know, who knows what, right? My kids can eat. My
survival
kids can
skills to
eat. They
me.
can survive. They know how to make a fire. They can hunt it.
Survival
They can clean it. They can
survival
cook it.
skills to me is top notch.
Yeah,
No matter which way you try to skin it or turn it.
literally.
You like my pun? I'm just sorry.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, all right. So, you know, no matter which way you try to look at it, it really survival skills is a big thing, and it is part of homesteading,
It
and it is
is.
something that I like to make sure that my kids know. And it's great that, you know, we live in a state that they take it very seriously,
Yeah, they do.
and
I love Arkansas for that.
they actually have a really good programs. They've got a lot of good stuff going on, and a lot of get outdoors, and a lot of, you know, learn how to live outdoors, and, you know, what's what. And they've got so much going on. It's absolutely
Yeah.
amazing, and this is a part of it, you know. And it is hard for some people to fathom, you know, especially if they live in a big, or like a big city, you know, and they don't really have any forests or trees or anything else. Well, it's a huge forest out here, and it's a huge lot of wildlife everywhere. It is
Mhm.
geographic, and it's what in the world.
Yeah,
So
Nat
I mean,
Geo.
a lot of people, some people, you know, they come out here and they're like, wait, what, you got bears just sitting? I'm like, yeah, they're like, there's
They're
definitely a
there.
bears over there, there's mountain lions up over that way, there's bobcats over there, there's, you know, foxes over here, there's hogs over there, there's, you know, like, there's stuff out here that is like, what in the world, you know? And most people would be frightened like no tomorrow if you get a pop tire out here and now you're stuck. in the middle of the wild.
Only if you hear a
You know what I
banjo
mean?
playing in the distance.
Man, it's a little. Man, it's like, wait a minute.
I'm just.
Where am I?
I'm just kidding, guys.
Hills have eyes. No, I'm just kidding.
Deliverance.
Yeah. But it's.
I'm just kidding, guys.
In all reality, though, I mean, that's.
Trying to lighten the mood.
Yes, we are. But at the same time, that's, it is. I'm a Boy Scout. I can't
Yes.
help it.
And so actually that kind of brought me to the next thing, right? So like how does our children's childhood compare to our own? And now I can say from personal experience, now when I was younger, I grew up in California in like the farming community of California. It's technically the Bay Area. But when I was living out there, there was nothing but orchards, and there was nothing like big tree orchards with walnuts and different things, right? But there was also like the lettuce fields and the artichoke fields, and then you drive a little bit over here, now you got the beach, right? So I pretty much grew up in like a farming community, but at the same time, I lived in a small town, and unless you went out of the development area, you were in that little town.
Yeah.
Right. So I grew up, I guess, kind of country, but I didn't grow up country. I grew up in cul-de-sacs. I grew up on little, streets and stuff. And it was small towns where I could ride my bike across town and not really, it was a different time as well. In the 80s and 90s, it was a different time period. So I guess like parents' fear of kids getting snatched and, horrible things
more
happening and stuff was a lot less. They legit, when I was growing up, they had TV commercials. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Because our parents, like the generation above us that were raising us, right? They were very hands off. And it's it's not even like, I'm not like shaming or anything. That's just how it was for us to grow up.
That
just
was the
like
one
how
thing
there
that
were,
was nice about cell phones in a sense when they did come out, was the fact that your parents could at least call you.
Yeah,
and
give you a
know where
call
you
and
were,
like know where you're at and stuff.
that
But
was why my mom gave me a phone, was because she didn't know where I was half the time, and she was like, I'm getting tired if I don't know where you are.
And we
Here's
had
a
to
phone. I was like, oh, okay. I never used it, but
come home when the street lights turn on, kind of a thing, right?
Exactly.
And so and that was like my really younger years. Now, when I was in middle school, I was in like 6th grade. It was the summer of 6th grade going into 7th grade. I moved to Las Vegas. I was only 11 when we moved to Las Vegas. And then I yo-yoed back and forth a few times, but I digress. I was still relatively young when I moved to a very, very big and busy city. And life for me was completely different. Went from a very small town, knowing everybody, growing up with the same kind of kids in the same schools, you would, if you stayed there, you would know each other throughout your whole lives, to going to a big city to where it's a big city now. You know what I mean? Like now you're just another little flash in the pan, and there's, a million of people here in town, right? I still, because of the time period that we grew up in, even though we moved to Las Vegas, I still had quite a bit of freedom to kind of come and go across town and do stuff, right? But the main differences, I think, in our childhood compared to our kids' childhood is, I feel like even though I was kind of an outdoor kid when I was younger, I feel like our kids are even more outdoor kids than even I was. I think that our kids are even more out than me. At least I can tell from my side of things. What's your side of things? I feel like our kids are more, and like certain things that they know how to do. I didn't know how to do those until I was in my late 20s. Like, it's not like I grew up just knowing how to cold chickens. I never had that like in my life.
We had to basically learn ourselves.
Exactly.
Teach ourselves off and watch YouTube videos
and read books
and see what's what, because there wasn't anything like that, and it makes me very happy that there's a lot. Arkansas is very very much organized in that way, and it's awesome.
I feel like our kids, the difference in their childhood versus like my childhood, like I feel like my kids are going to have way more survival skills than I ever had, especially at their age.
Correct.
By the time that they get to my age, they're going to be even, hopefully, I mean, that's even what every parent wants, is for their kid to be better than them. I want my kids to be so much better than me at literally everything in life. I hope that they surpass me in every single way imaginable, right? So that being said, by the time that they get to my age, they're going to be like way beyond,
Yeah.
you
But I
know?
mean, I feel like the kids are like my childhood and the kids' outdoor times. I think I might have them on that one. I don't know, but that's because we were in the '90s and we had a TV,
You
or
also,
I guess we had two TVs, but there was only one TV that had the game systems hooked up to, right?
mm,
And I also had older siblings, so I wasn't
you,
able to use the game system on that one TV whenever it was everybody's out of school or in the summertime or anything else. And
yeah.
I remember many times that my parents would still kick me out of the house and lock the door, and I would
Oh,
not be
yeah.
able to come inside
Oh,
at
yeah.
all and drink out of the hose
That was
and
totally a thing. Get out and I'm locking
and
the
we
door and don't you
were
come
we
back
were
until this
stuck out.
time.
We were stuck outside until it was like, well, I don't know when I can come back home. I don't
Yeah.
like, all right, like
Mom said
I'm,
I can't come in until 12:30 and I got to get a sandwich and get
it
out by
wasn't even
1.
like I've tried and it's still locked. And hanging up. All right, looks like I'm gone for the day or something. I don't know,
And so
but
some stuff like that, like I wouldn't necessarily do to our
water.
kids.
But I don't know. I
But at
mean,
the same time, like
I would also
so,
do it to myself. That's what I'm saying. Like it would happen, and then sometimes I would just do it to myself. I would take off for the out into the creek
oh yeah.
that's back in the
You
field
want to know
area, and then all of
something?
a sudden I'm out there all day and it's getting dark and I'm like, oh crap, I
You want to know
probably should get
something
home.
that me and Anthony used to do? So I mentioned we lived near orchards and stuff, right? So we knew the farmer, like we knew the guy that owned the property because at that particular time in my life, I like my stepdad or whatever, he like was a mechanic, and so
Mm-hmm.
he would fix like the big farm machines and stuff like that. And so anyway, we knew the farmer guy.
Yeah.
He was not like a friend of the family, but we knew who he was. So me and Anthony, we would get on our bicycles and we would ride all the way out to like the orchards and stuff, right? And we had permission if the walnuts and stuff were on the ground, we can go and like pick the nuts,
Yeah.
right? We couldn't take anything off the trees, but we could pick the ones that had already fallen on the grounds. So we had a little store in the town called Nob Hill, and basically I have very distinct memories of me and Anthony driving out into the back of the orchards, and we would go and fill up our bag with as many of those nuts as we possibly could, and then we'd go ride to Nob Hill. And then Nob Hill was like this little family owned and
Yeah.
operated thing. And we'd sell the nuts to the store, like a backpack full of nuts. And we'd sell them to the store and get like $10. And then Anthony would take me to Kmart, and like I'd go get a little Barbie and he'd get some candy and stuff. And then we ride home and that would be like our day, you know? And so I feel like some of those kind of things are very similar to the experiences that our children are going to get. Different, obviously, because I'm not going to let my kids just go riding bikes.
No.
No, they can ride on the property. They got 41.36 acres to go and explore. They're not going to the town and selling nuts anytime soon. But,
No.
but I feel like that freedom of exploration,
Yes.
our children still have very similar with us. And you
Correct.
grew up differently too, just because you were constantly in Boy Scouts. You were constantly going and doing things like that. Where me, I did not.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, like there was a lot. I mean, when we moved to Vegas, it was a little different because it was so hot outside.
Yeah.
To a point where it's like, man, like
And a different
don't want to go
climate too,
outside.
like
Yeah.
from like the Idaho where you got rivers and trees and mountains and stuff, right, to the desert in Las Vegas.
It
It's
was
totally
hot. And it was
different.
August when we moved in to
It's funny. It
Vegas.
was October when we moved. So it was still hot, but it was like finally getting a little bit, but you know how it's still hot in
Oh yeah.
October.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah.
I just remember I remember dang near dying, dude. It was like, oh,
Yeah, just whoa.
but
I'll never forget the first experience of it being over 100 degrees at like 9, 10 o'clock at night and just laying on my bed with my ceiling fan going, just being like, Lord, please,
mhm.
please. And it was just being so hot. Our AC went out one time and it was so bad.
Yep.
It was so bad.
It gets hot. It
Yeah,
gets
in
hot.
Vegas.
But it's very trying to think of how to compare the kids and ours. It's they do have a different lifestyle, but then they do have a lot of the good uh memories of being out in the wild and like
I would
just like the freedom wise, you know, like they've got the creek that they go and play at,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
they
they've
go and
got like
jump in the
the
pond and
pond,
yeah.
they've got like all these little things, they got the tree house, they've got like all these little things that,
I
you
would
know, as a kid it's like, man,
I would care to say that
they're
I feel like one of the biggest differences from their childhood to ours is the fact that we do live in so much more of an instantaneous um now kind of generation and timeline. Like think about like when we were kids and we wanted to watch a movie, we had to wait for it to come out on the theaters, and then we had to wait for it to come
this
out
is
to
true.
Blockbuster, and then
This
we
is
had to
true.
go to Blockbuster and rent it and then
Or
watch,
Hollywood.
or Hollywood Video, right? Or if you had a little like mom and pop VHS rental place, then one of them,
Right.
K&M Video or whatever, right?
Right.
So you had to like, the effort that you had to put in for certain things like that, you had to put in so much more effort when we were kids.
Well,
And like now our kids have certain things instantaneously, right?
yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest difference,
I
as
feel
well
like
as just social media in general is a presence, and our kids are aware of that presence. Not just because of the career choices that we've made, because even if we didn't make this, you know, our career choice for our lives, our kids are still living in the world, right?
no.
So their friends might have a Facebook account or a Snapchat or something.
No.
Our kids do not.
No.
And so there's going to be those differences, I guess, where maybe I have no idea. I'm just assuming here what maybe our kids think about in our eyes. I know that like my mom, like I wanted my own phone number for a long time for a phone in my bedroom or whatever. And I couldn't have one until I turned 13. And I was like, it's so not fair. I want my own phone number, right? But my parents knew better and knew to wait until a certain age. And same thing with our kids. Like it's just the difference in the technology, I guess.
There's a lot to it, you know.
I don't know.
There's I feel like the kids' childhood is one of the best, you know.
I
They
would,
don't
yeah.
have everything, you know, but they've got so much more than what we had, you know, and just the quality of it is so much better,
Yeah.
you know. So
So what are some of the things that you personally hope that our kids carry into adulthood? Like some of the things that we're instilling in them, whether it be their values or maybe just maybe memories that you hope that they can make, things that you hope that they carry through to being an adult.
I hope that they you know, they really carry on the simple life aspect. You know, it's
You mean like the slower intentional
the
living?
slower, intentional living and enjoying every little moment that is out there and not trying to rush it away, you know. But in all reality wise, what I'm really, really hoping for, you know, is that they can survive whatever comes their way.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing about the homestead lifestyle is it does teach a lot of survival skills in every aspect of life. When things get rough at the job, what are you going to do? You're going to lose your crap, you know, and then lose your job because you lost your crap. Are you cool? You
You're just
know,
gonna walk off and quit.
you're going to walk off, quit. You're going to, you know, what are you going to do when things get rough? Are you going to walk away? Are you going to just ignore it? Or are you what? You know, like you're going to be able to see a lot more to it than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, when things get rough, when things get tough, what is it that you do?
I also agree with that. I hope that some of the things that our kids really carry on from their childhood into adulthood by us doing all of this is that they carry on that you have to try and you have to go for your dreams no matter how big or scary it is, and no matter how many things or obstacles in your way, or people or just whatever tells you no, right? That you, if you have that fire like burning within yourself, that you have to go for it and you have to find out and you got to try, then I hope that they really do go after whatever that is.
Yes.
And I hope that they take all of these life experiences that we're giving them, and the childhood that we're hoping to be giving them, to have the freedom to explore, to be creative, to learn, and to to express themselves fully as an adult. So that way, when they reach that point, um, they can really feel like they can really feel like they've lived and lived with no like regrets.
Yes.
And that's what I truly hope for them.
Yeah.
So, well, friends, that's pretty much, we're going to wrap this one up. That's our thoughts on what it's like raising kids on a homestead, at least our homestead for our lived experiences. I know some of you guys maybe grew up on homesteads. Maybe you grew up on a farm. Maybe you have a homestead and you are presently raising children, and your experiences look or sound a whole lot different. But whatever the case may be, we want to hear from you. So make sure to drop down your thoughts and your experiences and your story times and all the stuff down in the comment section below. We love hearing from you guys.
Yes.
Absolutely. Always have something to learn that helps us to continue to grow and strengthen our community. And as we share with you guys here on the video portion, you guys share with us in the text portion. And I absolutely love getting closer to you guys through your texts. So we are going to run. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today and watching today's episode. Ask you guys to subscribe if you guys haven't yet subscribed. Yes. And stay tuned tomorrow because we got a new subject to deep dive and to talk to you guys about. I hope that you guys are enjoying this this new Real Talk series. Yep. And until the next one, friends, we love y'all and we hope you have a good one.
And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, you guys.
Later.